Hello everybody and welcome to Robert's Train Set. This is the third part of moving from Hornby's RAILMASTER and eLINK setup to DigiKey's DR5000 and iTRAINS. And if you haven't seen the other episodes, I've done a playlist with all the previous videos on, so if you want, catch up if you dare. So I'm gonna have a few words at the beginning of this to sort of, I don't know, clarify how I'm doing on it. I think the first thing to say is that I'm really excited to do it. The more I've looked into it, the more I want to do it, and I'm hoping it will work. I've had an awful lot of comments, well, from my channel on it, ranging from fantastic, I want to see how you get on because I've been thinking of changing from RAILMASTER. I will say at this stage, for the price, RAILMASTER is very good. I think you can pick up the whole set, the iLink and RAILMASTER software, for sort of £60 or £70. And if I just tell you that the two current detectors I bought were more than £100 or just on £100, you can see the value of that. It doesn't include the DR5000, which wasn't overly expensive at about 180. So it's not exorbitant, the cost of doing this, but compared to RAILMASTER and eLINK, yes it is. But you get an awful lot more control. And also, one of the comments I got, which was quite interesting, was that Hornby are due to bring out their rail sensors, their track sensors. Now, how they're going to work and what they'll be like, I don't know. But even withstanding that, if they do that, I don't think that RAILMASTER has the intelligence of iTRAINS or any of the other more expensive operating systems you can use. So in that sense, I'm glad I've now moved and made the decision to move before that came out. Now, I'm finding that DR5000, now that I've got a grips to it, as you've seen in the last couple of episodes, I'm happy with it. I can control my trains, I can do the sounds, change the points, do the lights. Is it as good as RAILMASTER? No, it's not, because with RAILMASTER it's all there in front of you on the screen. You've got your track layout, you can operate the points through that, you've got your locos, and they're there ready to be used just by scrolling down and clicking on it. No, the DR5000, although you could use it to control your trains, and it does a very good job, I must admit. The biggest benefit I've got so far from changing from RAILMASTER is the speed steps. I've watched all the other videos of you YouTubers, and you're always saying, oh, it's speed step 25 or speed step 50 or whatever. And of course, through RAILMASTER, although you can use speed steps, it doesn't really recommend them. So I was always using the miles an hour. And the locos are so different. The gearing's different. The decoder is different, possibly. It was a nightmare to match them, and I couldn't sort of match them, or I couldn't find a way of matching them. I did at the end manage to do my two 37s and match those, but with a lot of fiddling about and whatever. And as you saw in my last one, the number 2 of this series, I managed to get the Ginty and the 395 Javelin running round fairly close together without huge collisions. Yes, it did butt up against the the back of the Ginty, but it was all very gentle and controlled, and if I'd have spent a bit more, if I'd have concentrated a bit more, it wouldn't have happened. I just let it run, which I don't think I would have ever done in Hornby RAILMASTER. No way. So it's all looking good for the future. And I'm going to try in this video, just to give a bit more interest to what actually the main video is on about, is I'm going to try and run my Hattons 66 with my Hornby 66. Now, you couldn't get two different locos. They might superficially look the same, albeit one with a bit more detail than the other. But, you know, one's a TTS decoder and the other one is that's the word, isn't it? Lock sound number 5, version 5. And really tailored to what Hattons wanted, rather than maybe Bachmann or the others. But as you saw with the Ginty and the Javelin, the Ginty had a Lock Sound 4 decoder in it, as I mentioned, and obviously the Javelin has got a TTS, and they work quite well, didn't they? So we'll see how we go. It's great to have all this content that you can look at. You can take out of it what you want, and you know, anything that, okay, I'm not quite sure about that, you know, see if you can find some more information. The manuals are there for both systems. I wouldn't say they are great. They're not particularly intuitive, or they're not sources for information. And I have joined the forum for iTRAINS. I've yet to post, but I've been okayed and I can go on it. So if I get really stuck, I can ask, or more likely than not, look and see what's been answered from a question that had already been asked many times. So that's where we are. So I'm sorry to go on a bit. So in this one, I've got my, as you saw, my layout drawn on iTRAINS. But I did that basically off of my RAILMASTER picture that I had, and not actually on the railway. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take this up to the train room, or even the attic maybe, or even the loft. So many names for it. And we're going to have a look at the layout and have a look what I've actually drawn. And really the idea is to see if the sections that I've sort of instigated will actually work. Because obviously if the bit of track is far too short, is it worth it? Probably not. So in this, as I said, I'm going to use my Hattons 66 and my Hornby 66. I think initially I will just try to run them together on the same bit of track and see what happens. If they do work together well, I might then connect up the container train, which is in the sidings ready. Hopefully using the knowledge I've gained in changing the points, albeit a bit clanky, to get them in and out. So we'll see how we go. And then anything else that comes up that I think of to make it, you know, not too long, but then not too short. We'll see how we go. So I'm going to interrupt myself here. I was watching this back, and I just thought it's miles long, isn't it? But I do want you to sort of see what's going on in their head, and what I thought. So I'm actually going to break off from this midway, and I was getting quite thirsty with the, so you know, I've got the owl here, and I know you can't see her, but she's sort of around there a bit, and I just thought I'd break away, show a bit of the running that I've said I'm going to do, and then come back to me going on. So the Ginty just about to go into view. Why have we got the Ginty going? Well, in a moment, after you've seen a bit more of the Ginty going round, very quietly, we'll pan down and you might be surprised to see I'm controlling it with the Hornbridge RAILMASTer. Why am I doing this? Well, all will come clear in a minute. So as you remember in the last one, I said about wrote about could I set the trailing cab on the 395 to the same number as the driving cab, and that's why I'm up here doing that. So I did it on RAILMASTer because I can't do it here on the DigiKeys system yet. I've now moved over to the DigiKeys, and as you can see, it's all on number 52, and it's running okay. So we'll just see it running a little bit, and you might notice that the pattern 66 was overtaking it. And as you come up to the end, you've got the tail lights on, just about, can't you? So there we are. So there's the last carriage, and you can see the lights are being controlled just by that one control now. So that's good. That was worth doing. Away it goes, very slowly. And it runs nice and slowly here. But I've given you this bit because, oh look, there's the Hornby 66 and there's the Hatton 66. They don't seem to be going at the same speed, do they? So this is what I said I'd do. So in a mo, you'll see the two controls for this. This is now on DigiKeys. And you can see they're both at 41, but the Hornby, which I believe is on the right, is a lot faster than the Hattons, which is on the left, or in the middle really. The one on the other side is the 395. Might be wondering where I get all my numbers from, because I have to feed the numbers into each individual controller as I do it, and I took this off a RAILMASTer right at the beginning before I started this. So now, look, they're matched a bit better, aren't they? Yes, I know they're on two separate rails, but I tow it by stages, I think. And yes, the Hornby has gone in front of the Hattons, but only because it's a shorter distance around that inner track. And you look at the difference. Hattons on the left, Hornby on the right. A hell of a difference. So then I put them on the same track and used the same settings, and they were pretty good really. Quite impressed with this. It's so much easier with this system than it is with Hornby to do this. And there we are, we've got those same settings, 41 and 25. And these speed steps, not miles an hour. So I did rig them up together, and I've got the container train. So a little bit short of running of this, and the 395 still thundering around, not particularly fast. Right. Yeah, these were running, they weren't fighting each other. Now I think we'll probably be able to get this far better in iTRAINS, because we have the speed grid, which I'll explain in the next one, I would think. But I really like this. Colin's Engage. Now Colin's a nice chap, and his videos are very interesting, and his layout is absolutely, well, I think it's far more complicated than mine is, and you know, it runs really well. And he did make the comment about, I like to run long trains. I know I've got a short layout, a small layout, but I do like to run long trains, maybe 6 or 7 carriages, and I think in that introductory one I've had 28 goods, you know, freight wagons on. And basically iTRAINS works, and a little bit of, it's not technical stuff, but just the basics. The basics are that those sensors just detect current, so current draw in other words. So when you have an isolated bit of track with a fish plate each end, and it only needs to be on one rail, the live, not on the neutral, the black. As soon as something goes on that bit of rail and draws current, it's sensed, and the computer, i.e. iTRAINS, realises there's something on it. And as I said earlier, I think in the first one even, because it knows what train it's running, it knows what's there. But Colin's point was, if I ran those long trains, and I still might, they could be longer than the section that it's gone in, and they would be overhanging into the next section, or block. They're called blocks, but I keep forgetting what it's called, but they're blocks. So you have one block here, and then next to it, another one, depending, you know, how long I make them. Now, if they're not long enough for that train to fit in its entirety, it basically means that some of those wagons or carriages can be overlapping into the next section or block. And the computer will not know they're there. That's the whole point. That's what he was making. So, have you got to run shorter trains, which to a certain extent I might do, but I still like to run long trains. And with what I've watched and what I've sort of ascertained from various sources, it's quite easy to let the computer know that is overhanging this section. I think the most complicated way of doing it is to have some sort of current draw on your last wagon or carriage. And I suppose the easiest way to do that is just put some sort of capacitor or something between the wheels so that it's drawing current. Now, I don't fancy doing that. It seems a lot of work. The other way would be like Peter Dixon, and I keep mentioning Peter Dixon, but he's got quite a few bits that he could probably work with this, is, you know, the rear tail light. That's drawing current. So that would tell the sensor that there is still current being pulled, or it's being pulled out of another section. My way of doing it is as simple as this. You can, if you want, put each piece of rolling stock into the database along with its length, and if you went that route, you'd have an awful lot of entrance to put into iTRAINS, and you'd have to then put that in the train and tell iTRAINS it's in that train. What I'm going to do is basically tell them the length of the overall train. Now, I don't know whether that's from the front of the loco to the back of the last carriage, or it knows the length of the loco and then all the rolling stock. I don't know. That's something I've got to sort out. But then the computer would know how long that train is. It would know how long the section is, or block. And if I keep saying block, it might stay in my brain. So that's why I keep saying it. And we wouldn't have a problem. It would then just block off two blocks or sections and wouldn't let a train in. So you say, okay, but then you've got to have that train all the time. Now, I'm not sure this is right, but my brain is telling me that if you then did a train with different carriages and rolling stock in it, but it wasn't any longer than what you'd actually put in, you could still run it. So as long as it was either the same length or shorter, the computer would know there's a train there. So that's one of the things I've been thinking. And another thing I mentioned to Colin was, if you've noticed, I've got a couple of the buffer stops that have the LED lights on, and they're at the end into the terminus stations, aren't they? They draw current, don't they? So, can you tell iTRAINS to ignore that amount of current that's going out, and I don't know how much they draw, but whatever they draw, to ignore it, so that it then knows that section or block is not occupied, so we'll allow a train to come in. But if you can't do that, it would assume that block is occupied because there is current being drawn, and it wouldn't let the train in. So the passengers would all have to get out the stage, out the block, which isn't ideal. So if that is the case, you then need to isolate that little bit of track with that buffer stop in by cutting a gap in the live rail and then wiring that live rail up to the buzz wire. So I'm glad I've only got 2 of them. We'll see. So it was an interesting comment, and I've had quite a few interesting comments along similar lines, or just wondering how I'm going to get on, and as I said, the major one, and I know I'm going on. The major one is, if you get frustrated, which I'm sure I will, just walk away and leave it for a while. Right, so going to look at the track today up there and see if we can sort out. What I'd ideally like is to save some of the blocks that aren't going to work, and then have more blocks to use in the ones that I have decided on, because it may pay to have 2 sections in one that could be one, so maybe in the station or whatever, and then you can maybe have a train waiting just outside the station, and then it will come in once that block of the train at the front would come in. So it might be worth doing that. But at the moment, I think I've actually got 32 sections of blocks, which isn't ideal. I've got none spare. Now you can add more units, another 50 quid or so, and then you'd have another 16. So we'll see how everybody. I hope you enjoyed seeing the 66s going round, and the rest of my spiel that I did. So I'm just going to stick this at the end, and this really is the most important of this video, because what I want to do is just clarify my blocks. So I've mentioned blocks before, or sections if you prefer me to call them that. And I just need to make sure that what I've drawn on iTRAINS, which I've taken a copy of, this time without the grid, is going to work. So to that end, I'm going to turn the camera around and show you the layout, and just show you my thought processes a little bit, I suppose you could say. Yeah. So let's see how we get on. So as you can see, I've got no control equipment up here. The computers are downstairs in the warm. It's not very warm up here. It's 50 degrees, and we're talking about 12:15 in the afternoon, and it has had some sun on it, so probably was quite cold this morning. So we're going a bit into winter, peoples, aren't we? We've had it too good, haven't we, for a little while. So the November weather is coming in, and we've got quite a really cold north wind today, which is making it feel even colder. So as I've shown you before, there's my plan, and I'll just put you back on the tripod and I'll show you my thoughts a bit. So as you can see, I've got the 395 on the layout. Now this hasn't got the power car, primarily because if I want to move this around, the power car's got rubber tyres, as you might know, and they don't like being pushed, and I think you tend to wear them out. So I've left the power. But I wanted this as a sort of an idea of the length of a train. Now this train has actually got to stay together, hasn't it? I keep it all together. I just take the power car off and take it downstairs, keep it a bit warmer. So this is a train that will always be running in this configuration. And if you saw my comment from Collins Engage, very astute chap, he sort of said, will you have to run shorter trains to what I'm used to? And to a certain extent, possibly I will. But he did say, obviously, if a train is longer than one of the sections or blocks, the computer won't know that it's there because it won't be drawing any power. But this train is different because it's got lights at the back with a decoder, so it will be drawing power. So this particular train, if it's outside a block, the computer will know it's there, or it will know that block is occupied. And probably the same with the HST, which if I had it on here would be quite a bit longer than this one, because the Mark III carriages are quite a bit longer than what these are. And likewise my 411 EMU, that again has got lights at the back, so it is probably drawing current. So I can afford to have trains that are longer than a block, but if I take you off the tripod again and we'll just go a bit nearer and have a look, and I'll show you what I'm thinking. Right, so I'll come over here to show you what you have to think about, I think. So if we follow this line through, we eventually end up with the 395. And it's nicely pulled up, as you can see, at the station. I'll carry along a bit. And plenty of room. And you would say that if we came from this point to where we started, that would be quite a long block, and it wouldn't be a problem, and the train could sit there, and we could even have a longer one, so you could have the, say, a steam locomotive over the very end of the platform. It wouldn't matter. So I'm just going to relocate for a moment and show you the problem. The 395 back and go a little bit further over, we have a point right there, right in the middle of the station. And the one thing with iTRAINS is a point cannot be part of a block. So this rail by the station has got to be 2 blocks. So we'll be from there round to that one, and then obviously from the other side of this point, and I'll move that along a bit, so from the other side of this point down to that one. And the problem with that is, or not a problem, but when a train is stopped in the station, it's going to be taken up 2 blocks, which then means that from this one round to that one won't be a block, because it's really too short, I would say, although it may well be worth doing it. And then through the other station and down against the embankment, that will be a very long block. So again, would that be better being split? I don't know. I'm going to have a think about this. So I'm going to turn the camera off and have a ponder and see if I can lose some of the sections that I've thought I would use, so that I've got more scope to have extra sensors on the ones that will work better. So bear with me and I'll come back and sort of show you the layout that I've sort of decided on. So everybody, I'll come back down into the lounge because it's a bit warmer. Well, the dining room really, but it's all one room really. And I've got the 2 computers. So I'm being recorded on the webcam on the old computer, and in front of me here I've got my new computer with the layout in iTRAINS up, and I am recording this through that computer, so the screenshot, so to speak. So I'm going to go into the edit section and switch on the switchboard, and then that brings up the same layout but in something that I can adapt and change. So I'm doing that at the moment. So what I need to do now is adapt what I've drawn on my piece of paper, and I'll try and show you it. I'm not sure, because it's dark, it's difficult. But I've got a couple of places where I won't need any sensors, so I've saved a couple. And I've identified somewhere where it might be worth breaking a long run into 2 sections. Okay? So I'm going to try and edit this, and the first thing I'm going to do is take off the ones I don't need. So I thought this would be recorded properly, but it didn't. So if I've just got this little short bit, and if you look, I just moved a couple of blocks away and then added some, and I've just done that, and you can see them, and I'll put an arrow to show you where it happened. So sorry about that. I had about 17 minutes of this, but it was all near up the same. So sorry everybody, never mind, a bit boring. So everybody, this is about the end of this one, and excuse me, I've got a bit of hiccups. This is the end of this one. In the next one, I think it's actually time to start getting into iTRAINS and at least get iTRAINS operating one of my locos, or possibly two. So that's what I'm going to try and do in the next video. Not done it yet. I don't know whether it will work or whether I'll be able to do it. There are certain things that you need to do, which I will explain in the next video. Okay, everybody? So as long as I use the right mouse on this one, I shall stop this recording now. So thanks for bearing with me on this. A lot of talking, I do apologise, but not really, because I want you to get a flavour of my processes, my thoughts and that ever. You know, that's all part of setting all this up, isn't it? So cheers everybody. Cheers.